Dear listeners, I'm Dr. Atish Mundra, Associate Professor with SNJB Sriman Suresh Dada Jain College of Pharmacy. Have come up with a second part of research proposal writing. In the previous part, we have discussed the research process or the steps involved into research process in detail. Today, I'll be discussing about research proposal writing, how that proposal is to be written, and how it needs to be submitted to the funding agencies or to the university or research organization. Let us start with this topic with a quote. The future is not something we enter, the future is something we create. And being a researcher, you are entering into this particular research field and you have to create something of your own. And that can be only created if you are determined enough to pursue your goal. In the previous lecture, we have discussed the steps which are involved into research, starting from your selection of a research problem till you submit your research report to the agency or to the university. Now let us discuss regarding research proposal writing. Let me tell you, a worthwhile research project is likely to result only from a well-designed proposal. So you have to design your research work in such a way that by seeing your research proposal or seeing your plan of work, the agency to whom you are submitting your research proposal for getting funds, or see if you are submitting your synopsis for getting registered to doctoral research, the evaluator should understand and should be able to fathom the research work which will be carried out by you in future. And that's why it is being said that a worthwhile research project is likely to result only from a well-designed proposal. And most of the universities and funding agencies have their own research proposal format, and you have to scrupulously follow that format if you are submitting the proposal to those agencies. It is important that you follow the format as it is being given by the organization or by the university or by the funding agency. Mostly the proposal format or the requirement or the documents which are required to be submitted into proposal, that remains same. Here I am discussing with you all regarding one sample proposal format. In sample proposal format, this format contains three parts. In the part 1, we have to give the statement of the research problem and discuss its significance. In part 2 of the proposal format, you have to discuss or give the review of related literature and justify your hypothesis. And in part 3, you have to describe the methods which will be used by you for completion of that research project. So let us discuss each and every part in detail. Part 1, the statement of the problem and its significance. It is being said that it is not that easy to shell out the money from someone else's pocket. And when you are going to ask fund to funding agency will not be ready to fund your research proposal or research project unless and until the problem has been stated properly by you and you have justified why it is worth working on that particular project and why it is really required to invest energy, time of a researcher and funds of the funding agency. So Your goal with which you are going to start with your research work must be clearly stated, because clearly stated goal only gives direction to the research process. When you talk about a research problem, a problem statement must involve more than information gathering. So you should be able to devise a proper hypothesis which will clearly indicate to the funding agencies why it is really important and how your research work will change the present situation in that field of research. So researcher must be in the position to demonstrate why it is worth time, effort and expenses required to carry out the proposed research work. So in short, the researcher must be in the position to explain the significance of the problem with which researcher is interested working on to. So goal, hypothesis and significance, these are the three important things which must be there into your part 1 of a research proposal. In part 2, you are supposed to give the review of related literature and hypothesis. Now, in review of related literature, the reports of studies which are being closely related to your problem must be discussed properly so that the gray areas can be identified. Whatever has been already done into that area will be clear by the literature, and you can show the clear cut information which is lacking into the previous research work, so that that will clear to the agencies as well why it is worth supporting this particular research proposal. Then your design of the study must be very clear, because your plan of work will tell the agency how you are going to execute your project. Then whatever samples and ways of samplings are there or methods which will be used by you must be clearly taken from the related literature and must be valid and verifiable. Whatever variables you are going to work on, those variables must be defined properly, and for that literature which is available in the field of research will be helpful to you for defining your variables. And at the end, when you give review of related literature, you should be in the position to review the literature properly and to identify the faults and errors which were being conducted by previous researcher. Because of those faults and errors, few gray areas have been left behind to work upon by previous researchers, and those gray areas you as a researcher are interested to tap upon and come up with the new insight into the given field of research. So in part 2, you should give a thorough literature, what has been done previously by other researcher, and then state your hypothesis based on the literature which is available. In part 3, it is being expected from a researcher that he knows what subject he is going to work upon, what kind of population he is going to study, what kind of variables he is going to undertake for investigation. And after subject, he is supposed to discuss in detail regarding the procedures or the techniques which will be used by him or her during his or her research work. In the procedures and techniques, if the established procedures or techniques are going to be used by you, it should be clearly mentioned using references, or if you are going to use a modified or novel technique, at the time it should be described in detail for reviewer or for evaluator to understand how your procedure will be able to take you to through that research to come up to the conclusion. And in methods of analysis, you should clearly state how the data which will be generated by you during your research work, how it will be analyzed, and how conclusion will be drawn by you using those methods of analysis. In methods of analysis, you may use computers or some statistical softwares for analysis of voluminous data which will be generated by you during your research work. So in part 3, it is expected that researcher must describe methods in detail for the evaluator to understand how you are going to execute your project or how you are going to execute your research work. And the most important thing is your other component, and in other component the thing which is really required is the time schedule. It won't be like that you are planning for something and there is no timeline given for that. So the program evaluation and review technique, which is also known as PERT chart, it is a statistical tool which is being used in the project management to schedule, organize and coordinate the task within the project. It is basically the method of analysis the task which is involved in completing a given project, especially the time which is required to complete each task and to identify the minimum time which is needed to complete your whole project. And this time schedule you will have to stick to when you are submitting in the form of PERT chart, because how much time will be required to complete which part of the project will be given by you to the funding agency, and progress of your research project will be evaluated based on the time schedule which is being given by you in form of PERT chart. So you will have to stick to the schedule which is being submitted by you, and progress based on the progress report which will be submitted by you to the funding agency. Funding agency will keep releasing the fund for the given research project. At the end, I would like to say that one way to understand the methodology and process of research is to engage yourself into the research work. Thank you. Thank you very much.